August 12, 2025. The South China Sea, at exactly 9:42 a.m. local time. Silence shattered above Scarborough Shoal. From a Chinese coastal launch site, 142 nautical miles away, a streak of fire tore into the sky. It was an HQ-19, Beijing's most advanced anti-stealth missile, a weapon built to erase the world's most elusive bomber in less than 42 seconds. Its target? A United States B-2 Spirit, one of only 19 in existence, a machine worth $2.1 billion, carrying 40,000 pounds of precision bombs, designed to appear on radar no larger than a pigeon. The launch was more than an attack. It was a line crossed. For Beijing, this was defending sovereignty. For Washington, it was a provocation in international airspace, a strike at America's very symbol of power in the sky. But the Spirit was not alone. Within minutes, Indo-Pacific Command raised the alarm. Within hours, the United States authorized a mission that would change the balance of fear across the Pacific. Would China succeed in downing America's ghost bomber? Or had they made the most dangerous mistake in modern military history? Stay with us, because what followed was Operation Iron Dagger. At 9:42 a.m. local time, the B-2 Spirit sliced silently through the humid skies above the South China Sea. Its mission was classified, its profile ghost-like, its radar cross-section barely a whisper, less than 1/10 of a square meter. From the cockpit, the pilot saw nothing unusual, just clouds, just sea. But inside a bunker 200 miles away, a trained Chinese radar operator leaned forward. He squinted at a faint return, a speck, a shape too small to be coincidence. He whispered a single word: B-2. Seconds later, alarms blared. Commanders of the Chinese Coastal Defense Network scrambled to lock onto the faint ghost above Scarborough Shoal. The HQ-19 missile system, China's pride, its so-called stealth killer, was brought online, a weapon engineered for this exact moment. Warhead, 400 pounds of high explosive fragmentation, speed, Mach 14, nearly 10,700 miles per hour. Promise to reach a target within 42 seconds of launch. The order was given. The ground shook. A pillar of flame roared into the morning sky. Inside the B-2, a harsh tone screamed across the threat display: missile launch! The pilot had seconds to act. At 35,000 feet, with little room to maneuver, he banked sharply. Electronic countermeasures erupted. Streams of digital noise, bursts of chaff lit the air behind the stealth bomber. The Spirit twisted in the sky, forcing the missile's guidance system to search for a signal it could no longer hold. The HQ-19 closed the distance in under a minute. 50 miles, 30 miles, 15 miles. Then, a flash. The missile detonated prematurely, tearing nothing but empty sky. For 1 minute and 54 seconds, the world had held its breath. Then silence returned. The B-2 lived. But the message was clear. China had done what no adversary had dared in decades: fired directly on an American strategic bomber in international airspace. Inside Indo-Pacific Command in Hawaii, red lights pulsed across the operations floor. Secure communications carried the news to Washington. For the Joint Chiefs, this was no near miss. This was an act of aggression, a strike not just at steel, but at American resolve. And for the President, the stakes were beyond dollars and hardware. A single B-2 represented 10% of America's stealth bomber fleet. Lose one, and the balance of power would tilt. Let it go unanswered, and Beijing would believe they had drawn blood without consequence. The question was no longer if the United States would respond. The question was how. The flash report raced across secure channels in less than 5 minutes. From the skies above Scarborough Shoal to Indo-Pacific Command in Hawaii, and from there straight to the Situation Room in Washington. The message was blunt. Chinese HQ-19 missile launched against U.S. B-2 bomber. Target evaded, no losses. In the cavernous watch floor of Indo-PACOM, giant screens replayed the radar logs. The missile's point of origin glared on the map. A hardened launch site dug into China's southern coast, exactly 142 nautical miles from the shoal. Satellite imagery confirmed the launch signature. There was no doubt. Beijing had fired deliberately, not in error and not as a warning shot. For Washington, the numbers carried a chilling weight. A B-2 Spirit is not just another aircraft. It is a crown jewel of American air power. Only 19 exist, each worth over $2.1 billion, each capable of carrying 40,000 pounds of precision ordnance. To lose one would mean losing 10% of the entire stealth bomber fleet. The financial cost was staggering. The strategic cost? Unthinkable. At 9:57 a.m. Eastern Time, a secure video link connected three faces: the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the commander of Indo-PACOM, and the President of the United States. Maps, figures, and probabilities filled the screen. The commanders' voices were steady but urgent. The Chinese had fired first. They had crossed a line. Options were laid out. Option 1: lodge a formal protest, await Beijing's explanation, and risk being seen as hesitant. Option 2: increase air patrols, reinforce allies, and prepare for escalation, but leave the missile site untouched. Option 3: strike back, swiftly and surgically, erasing the HQ-19 battery before it could ever lock onto an American bomber again. Silence hung for only a moment. Then came the decision. The president leaned forward. His voice was firm, measured, but absolute. "We will not let an attack on our aircraft go unanswered. Execute a limited precision strike. Begin Operation Iron Dagger." The order was given in under 3 minutes. From Guam, from the decks of the USS Ronald Reagan, from bases stretching across the Pacific, the call to arms rippled outward. Air crews raced to their aircraft. Pilots checked flight plans, mechanics fueled engines and loaded munitions. This was no symbolic show of force. It was a mission built to annihilate. The objective was crystal clear: destroy the missile battery, blind the radar, and cripple the command center, without escalating into all-out war. The countdown began. 6 hours to launch. Indo-PACOM's mission board filled with call signs and vectors. The strike force would include stealth bombers, stealth fighters, drones, decoys, and tankers. Together, they represented more than $6 billion in American air power and over 1 million pounds of jet fuel. Operation Iron Dagger was no longer a plan. It was a reality. And it would send a message to Beijing and to the world that America's skies were not to be challenged. By 10:15 a.m. Pacific Time, the skeleton of Operation Iron Dagger was etched across Indo-PACOM's mission board. Colored lines slashed across digital maps, each vector representing aircraft already warming engines from Guam to the Philippine Sea. The plan was brutal in its simplicity, devastating in its precision. At its core were two ghosts, B-2 Spirits, call signs, Nightfall 1 and Nightfall 2. Between them, they carried 16 GBU-31 V3B Joint Direct Attack munitions, each a hardened 2,000-pound penetrator designed to drill through reinforced concrete before exploding. With a circular error, probable of less than 10 meters, they could obliterate a bunker doorway from 25,000 feet. Each Spirit held the destructive force of an entire squadron. But stealth alone would not win this fight. Surrounding the bombers was a lethal orchestra. Two F-35C Lightning IIs would fly escort, their AN/APG-81 AESA radars capable of tracking 1,000 targets simultaneously. They carried AGM-88G AARGM-ER missiles, supersonic anti-radiation hunters designed to silence enemy radars the instant they came online. 8 FA-18E Super Hornets from the deck of the USS Ronald Reagan would launch a storm of ADM-160 MALD-J decoys. Each one projected the radar signature of a lumbering B-52 bomber while jamming Chinese surveillance bands with 500 watts of electronic noise. On enemy scopes, dozens of phantom giants would appear, diverting defenses away from the true threat. Electronic warfare support would come from EA-18G Growlers, broadcasting broadband jamming across 150 miles. Their role: to blind communications, scramble targeting systems, and open a corridor of silence through which the spirits could pass undetected. To sustain the operation, two KC-46A Pegasus tankers would hover far out at sea, carrying over 200,000 pounds of fuel each. Without them, the B-2's 6,000 nautical mile round trip would be impossible. Every piece of the strike package had its role. Together, they formed a layered assault designed to overwhelm China's defenses from every direction at once. The deception axis came from the east, MALD-J decoys simulating a bomber wing charging headlong into Chinese airspace. The suppression axis came from the south, F-35Cs, hunting radars, and air defenses. The kill axis came from the southwest, two B-2s threading silently through a low observable corridor where their radar cross-section would appear smaller than a golf ball. Indo-PACOM's briefing was explicit. The strike must erase the HQ-19 battery in under 90 seconds from the first bomb drop. Speed, precision, and total coordination would determine success. Somewhere along China's coast, inside a fortified launch site, the HQ-19 battery sat silent. Its radar dome towered above concrete blast walls, its launchers poised, its command bunker buried deep beneath layers of reinforced steel. To Beijing, it was impregnable. To Washington, it was a target marked for erasure. By T-4 hours, every aircraft was airborne. Across the vast Pacific sky, contrails vanished into silence, and stealth shadows slipped beneath the radar horizon. Over 1 million pounds of jet fuel burned, 80,000 pounds of precision ordnance armed, $6 billion of American war machines committed. The mission's objective was no longer theoretical. The strike package was en route. The question was not whether America could strike. It was whether China could survive the blow. At 2:03 a.m. local time, the strike package crossed the invisible commit line in the Philippine Sea. From this point forward, there was no turning back. Two B-2 Spirits, Nightfall 1 and Nightfall 2, glided silently at 35,000 feet. On radar, they appeared smaller than a golf ball. On infrared, their engines burned so cool that even the sharpest seekers could find nothing to lock onto. Ahead of them, the deception unfolded. 32 MALD-J decoys screamed eastward, each one pulsing with electronic signatures of massive bombers. On Chinese radar screens, it looked like a wave of B-52s was charging straight at their coast. Panic gripped operators. HQ-9 and HQ-22 batteries slewed their launchers toward the ghosts, wasting precious tracking cycles. Simultaneously, two F-35Cs skimmed low and wide, their sensors piercing the night. Their AGM-88G anti-radiation missiles were hot, waiting for the telltale glow of enemy radar. EA-18G Growlers painted the sky with broadband jamming, severing communication links, flooding frequencies, and forcing commanders into radio silence. The corridor was open. The spirits advanced. At 2:14 a.m., they crossed the Chinese coastline. Beneath them lay the target, a 3-acre fortress of concrete and steel, a radar dome, 3 missile launchers, auxiliary vehicles, and a buried command bunker. To Chinese generals, it was an impregnable shield. To the pilots of Nightfall 1 and 2, it was coordinates locked in the fire control system. The onboard APQ-181 radar mapped the site in exquisite detail, resolving structures down to a single meter. GPS guidance synced with satellite precision, aligning the JDAMs to within 18 inches of their aim point. Weapons hot. The call echoed across the strike net. In less than 15 seconds, 16 bombs detached from the Spirit's wings. Each GBU-31V3B, 2,000 pounds of hardened steel and explosive, plunged silently at nearly Mach 1. They fell in a staggered pattern, each assigned to a specific kill point. The first impacts shredded the radar dome. A 60-foot array toppled into fire and smoke. Secondary explosions tore outward as power cells ruptured. The second wave struck the launchers. Each HQ-19, worth over $60 million, erupted in violent chain reactions. Solid fuel boosters cooked off like rockets, detonating in gouts of flame visible for miles. The final pair of JDAMs slammed into the command bunker. Their delayed fuses ignited deep inside the structure. Reinforced steel, consoles, servers, all pulverized in an underground inferno. The ground convulsed as shockwaves rippled outward. 88 seconds. That was all it took. From the first bomb to the last detonation, the HQ-19 site ceased to exist. Concrete walls were shattered into rubble. Launchers were reduced to twisted wreckage. Fires burned at 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Ammunition continued to explode in chain reactions long after the Spirits banked away. And through it all, the B-2s never broke formation. Engines at whisper thrust, wings level. They turned west toward their exfiltration corridor, untouched, unseen, unstoppable. Overhead, the F-35Cs lingered briefly, their infrared feeds confirming what the Pentagon would later call total mission success. The HQ-19 battery was gone. Radar silent. Launchers destroyed. Command obliterated. In less than 2 minutes, what Beijing had called its shield against America's stealth had been reduced to smoking craters. For China, it was not only the loss of hardware worth hundreds of millions, it was humiliation. The most advanced anti-stealth weapon in their arsenal had been erased by by the very ghost it was built to kill. For the United States, it was proof that resolve, stealth, and precision could rewrite the balance of power before dawn even broke. By 2:21 a.m., the strike package was already over open water. The B-2 Spirits vanished into the night, their signatures dissolving into the vast silence of the Pacific. Behind them, the Chinese coastline smoldered. The HQ-19 site no longer existed. Pentagon assessments began flowing within hours. 3 HQ-19 launchers, each valued at more than $60 million, destroyed. A phased array radar system worth $150 million obliterated. 4 auxiliary support vehicles gone. And the command bunker, the brain of the installation, reduced to rubble. In total, between $350 and $400 million in advanced air defense wiped out in under 2 minutes. But the monetary figure was only part of the loss. With the Scarborough battery gone, a 120 nautical mile segment of China's southern coastal defense went dark. For U.S. carrier groups, patrol aircraft, and ISR drones, that blind spot was a golden corridor, a temporary lane of freedom in one of the world's most contested theaters. By 3:07 a.m., satellite imagery confirmed what the F-35C feeds had already shown. The installation was gone. The radar mast snapped in half. Launchers twisted like scrap. The hardened bunker collapsed into a crater 30 feet deep. The shield had become a scar. At 3:15 a.m., the president addressed the nation and the world. His words were deliberate, backed by satellite photos and radar logs. A United States aircraft, operating in international airspace, was fired upon without provocation. The United States responded within its rights under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. Let it be clear, we will defend our aircraft, our crews, and our freedom to operate wherever international law allows. The geopolitical ripples were immediate. Manila, Tokyo, and Canberra issued swift statements of support, denouncing China's launch as reckless and destabilizing. In financial markets, Asian stocks dipped, then rebounded, as traders realized the U.S. response had been limited, precise, controlled, and designed to send a message without igniting all-out war. In Beijing, the atmosphere was far different. Intelligence intercepts revealed chaos inside the Eastern Theater Command. Surviving HQ-19 units were redeployed inland. Radar frequencies were shifted. Satellite constellations repositioned to cover what analysts now called the Scarborough Gap. But none of it could erase the humiliation. Hundreds of millions of dollars of weaponry destroyed by bombers that had never even appeared on their scopes. By sunrise, the B-2 Spirits were already back on Guam. Their 9-hour mission complete. 6,000 nautical miles covered. 80,000 pounds of ordnance dropped. And not a single radar lock sustained. Strategists across the globe studied the aftermath. 3 truths emerged. Stealth technology that remains unmatched decades after its debut. Joint force integration. Air, sea, electronic warfare, working in perfect unison. And above all, political will. The decisiveness to act under pressure and to act fast. For allies, the strike was reassurance. For adversaries, it was a warning. Scarborough had shown that detection does not guarantee survival, that even the most advanced defenses could be shattered in minutes. And for the United States, it was more than a tactical victory. It was proof that in the contested skies of the Pacific, American resolve could not only survive an attack, it could erase the threat entirely. The Scarborough incident began in less than 2 minutes and ended in less than a day. Yet its consequences will echo for years to come. At 9:42 a.m., a Chinese missile streaked into the sky, hunting one of America's rarest bombers. By 2:14 a.m. the next morning, that very bomber, joined by its twin, had delivered justice with devastating precision. In just 88 seconds of combat, 3 HQ-19 launchers, a phased array radar, and a fortified command bunker were erased. In 9 hours of flight, the B-2 Spirits demonstrated a truth that Beijing could not ignore. When the United States decides to strike, even the most advanced defenses can crumble before they realize the battle has begun. For America, the operation was not just a tactical victory. It was reassurance to allies, a warning to adversaries, and a reminder to the world that freedom of navigation and freedom of the skies would never be surrendered. So I ask you, if you were sitting in the Situation Room on that morning, would you have made the same call? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story gripped you, like, share, and subscribe so that more patriots can stand witness to the truth behind the headlines. Because in the end, the message is clear. America's strength does not lie in numbers alone, but in resolve, in precision, and in the unyielding will to defend freedom.